Hi, everybody. This is Lorraine Cohen, and it is a Saturday on Labor Day weekend. And on my walk this morning, I found myself thinking about self-forgiveness. And my question to you is, how forgiving are you? When you make a mistake, do you have a tendency to beat yourself up? When you have made a decision that has brought you into difficulty, are you compassionate and understanding, and do you see it as a growth opportunity, or do you see it as an opportunity to punish yourself? If you said yes to any of those questions, you're not alone, because being forgiving and compassionate and kind and self-loving towards ourselves is something that many of us struggle to do. So that's another reason why I wanted to talk with you today about it, to give you some ideas and even a little exercise that I share with so many of my clients, as well as an exercise that was really life-changing for me when I looked at a situation that I was having a lot of difficulty with. So one of the questions that I'm often asked is, how can I tell whether I may be holding on to some unforgiveness? So one of the clues that comes up really fast for people is how quick you find yourself moving into anger and rage towards yourself. How quickly you find yourself being harsh, in speaking to yourself harshly, treating yourself harshly, even withholding things from yourself that you want and you need. And it could be something as simple as not giving yourself rest when you know that you need it, or feeding yourself well with nourishing foods, or taking time for self-care and putting yourself consistently on the back burner can be indications where you're harboring and holding on to feelings towards yourself that are anchored in unforgiveness. Resentments, regrets are also places that we often find unforgiveness, and also blame, very common, where it may seem that you can be more compassionate and understanding with others, but when it comes to yourself, there is this intolerance that we feel. And oftentimes, in looking at situations that have not gone well, you can think, well, I've forgiven that other person, but the person that we harbor the greatest amount of anger and unforgiveness is towards ourselves. Even if we can look at a situation and realize, I've done the best I can, there was nothing that I could have done differently, there can still be a part inside. It's almost like a Superman or a Superwoman part inside that views that situation and seems to feel, I should have known this, I should have seen this, I should have done something, even if it wasn't realistically possible. And we can hold ourselves in that place above others, in which unforgiveness never reaches, because we don't allow ourselves to be human. And the reality is that we are messy human beings. We mess up a lot. There are times when we stand in our brilliance, and there are times when we're coming from places of hurt and frustration and fear, and we're showing up the best that we can in every situation based on our level of consciousness, based on what's happening with our lives at the time. We are always being the best us in every situation. But when we move into those places of judgment, we don't recognize that. We become these critical parts that view those experiences with so much harshness and so much lack of self-love. And that's the shift that our hearts are crying for. Our hearts are crying for compassion. And you are the source of that. I oftentimes find there's unforgiveness when there is a recurrence of roadblocks and obstacles that keep coming up. Also illness. I truly believe that at the genesis of all illness, of all difficulties, are emotions that are being repressed. Sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's Unforgiveness, oftentimes it's unforgiveness. That I will tell you from my own life experience. And it is our heart's calling for us to be more self-loving. Oftentimes you may find yourself revisiting a memory over and over that you know that you've done some work with. I want to say I smile. I don't know that I smile. I find myself shaking my head when I hear the phrase, forgive and forget. Well, we don't do that. The reality is, human beings, we don't forgive and forget. We can push it away, but the idea of just verbally saying, I forgive, is a mental exercise, because forgiveness happens in the heart. We have to feel that compassion, that love, that understanding, that empathy, not just for others, most specifically for ourselves. Because if we can't really feel it for ourselves, we can't truly gift that for others. And that's what self-forgiveness is. It is a gift of self-love. It doesn't excuse or condone a choice or experience that we've made or had, but what it invites us to do is to look at the brilliance of that experience, the nuggets, the learning, the growth, the expanded awareness that we can get from that experience that helps us to grow and expand and evolve within ourselves. That's one of the greatest gifts of our life experiences. So nothing is ever wasted. It's always in service to our own healing, our growth, our evolution. We can easily forget that, can't we, when we get angry and upset with ourselves, because we don't always remember how amazing and magnificent we are, how beautiful we are, and we don't always give ourselves permission to be human. So I want to offer you a little exercise that I have experienced myself that has been incredibly transformational, as well as with the clients that I work with in diving deeper into self-love and self-forgiveness. So what I invite you to do is to, well, you can do this or not do this. Let me give you that option. To think of something that you still have some emotional charges to. When I say emotional charges, I mean reactions like anger or upset or pain. Think of it. Might be a decision that you made, it may be a situation that you're in or a situation that you were in that creates some tension and stress and upset. And one that I've often used as an example is a decision about money, because that, boy, is that a hot button for a lot of people, and it was and has been a hot button for me. And I'll share something that I still have some layers that I'm working with from time to time, because sometimes we can work with something and it will continue to come back a little bit more as our hearts are opening wider and wider. There's still a little more stuff in there that we need to embrace. So several years ago, when my parents passed away, I was gifted with some money. And in my desire, and I would say definitely in my impulsiveness to invest that money wisely, I acted a little bit too quickly in making a decision on how to best invest the money. And within a couple of years, it had just completely been lost. It was not the best decision. And at the time when I realized what had happened, oh God, did I beat myself up. I was so angry at myself and calling myself all these names, as you can imagine, and may call yourself some of those names. And over the years, I've really had to work with that. And one of the ways that I have worked with that, again, is that reminder that at the time, and the people that I trusted, that I felt were guiding me in the right direction, that was the best advice and guidance that I had at the time, and it felt right. And so now, looking back in retrospect, hindsight, beautiful thing. When we look back, if I knew then what I know now, I would have made a different decision. But I learned from that and have taken that experience to be much more thoughtful. So I wanted to just give you that example, because what you may choose is something that relates to money. So put your attention on whatever it is that you've chosen that creates distress for you, okay? And I want to invite you to put your hand over your heart and just breathe in some love, because I'm going to suggest 2 or 3 different questions that I want to invite you to breathe into and just experience where those questions take you, okay? So here's the first question. What if the decision that you made that created whatever experience occurred was divinely orchestrated by your soul, by the divine presence inside of you, to bring you closer into relationship with your truest self? What if that experience in that exact form was specifically designed to help you break through some barriers, to feel things that perhaps you had been resisting or needed to feel, so that you could have a closer relationship with your truest self, something that your heart is craving? If that were true, could you forgive yourself? And with your hand over your heart, just breathe into that and see what comes up for you. That was a big shift for me, I'll tell you, when I entertained that question. And here's the next question. What if before you came into this life, there was a predestined plan for you to have a specific experience in order to fulfill one of your soul's intentions? And it may have been to experience forgiveness, or compassion, or patience, or to surrender. So what if there was a specific intention for you to unconsciously create a certain experience in order for you to have the gifts from that experience for your soul's growth, and also for your growth as a human being? If that were true, could you forgive yourself? And with your hand over your heart, breathe into that. And here's the last question. And this was another very powerful question for me. What if the situation that you created, because you did create it, brilliant you that you are, what if the situation that you created was designed specifically because of who you are meant to be in this life, for the role that you are meant to play, for the service that you are here to offer others? And in order to do that, you would have to go through that experience, to be on that journey, to learn the terrain, so that you could guide others who would be walking through that same path or similar path for themselves. And in order for you to be of greatest service to them, having been there and done that can be one of the gifts that you offer those who come to you. If that were true, could you forgive yourself? And breathe into that. We don't always understand why things happen. And to try to make sense out of life is and can be a crazy-making experience. There are times when illumination comes, and there are times when we just have to trust that our experiences are always here to serve us, and that we are creating those moments because of our intense commitment and desire for our lives to be amazing. Imagine if you could see yourself through the eyes of divine love, as the divine presence in you sees you in every moment. Imagine how your heart would break open. So how do we make these shifts that our heart is crying for? Practice. Every experience that shows up for you, bless it, welcome it, feel it, be present with it. It's not there to harm you, to make your life miserable. It's there to help you to open your heart, to open your eyes, to open your mind, to open to possibilities. This is the most incredible time on the planet. So from my heart to yours, I hope that what was shared today was meaningful for you. And if you have any comments or questions or anything that you would like to share with me, I'd love to hear from you. And you can contact me at LorraineCohen.com. So have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Be loving and forgiving with yourself. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.